Today, guys, I'm going to be showing you the best rod progression guide for fish on Roblox. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into this video. So for people that are starting out in the early game, obviously you're going to have the flimsy rod, which is the starting rod to the game. This rod is pretty terrible, but once you have bought the flimsy rod, the very first rod I would recommend you buying is the carbon. Carbon rod is the next best, in my opinion, rod to get, especially for beginners. It costs 2,000 coins, and it has pretty decent stats early within the game. Overall, it's a pretty good rod. So that is the early game. And now moving on to the mid-game section of the game. Now, this is where you've gotten a little bit more money and you have more experience with the game. You know a little bit more about the game. So the very next rod I would purchase is the steady rod. Now, the steady rod you can actually purchase at Roslet Bay. There is a merchant where you can actually purchase at Roslet Bay. You can also purchase the rapid rod at Roslet Bay, which are the two next recommended rods to buy in the game. Those are mid-game rods. They're not super good. They're not super bad. There's obviously better rods out there, and these are more mid-game. Now, late-game rods, these would include King's Rod, Trident's Rod, No Life Rod, and Aurora Rod. Now, for me personally, I would probably consider Aurora Rod a more mid-game rod because it's cheaper. However, I would kind of put it in the middle of mid-game and late-game. I would say it's a mixture of that. The order I did it in was I got the flimsy rod, the steady rod, and then I got the Aurora Rod, then I got the King's Rod, and then the Trident's Rod. Now, everyone does it differently. It's up to you, really, but I'd put the Aurora Rod in the middle of that. You'd only get the Aurora Rod during an Aurora Borealis event in the Vertigo Island, so just know that. Now, if we're going to the sole late-game rods, we're going to have the No Life Rod, the Trident Rod, and the King's Rod, and the Depths Rod. So all three of these rods are pretty late game. King's Rod, the bonus to this, it's actually super easy to unlock. You only need like $100,000 to buy it, and it increases your fish size by I think 10 or 25%. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it's 10%, and it's overall just really good for farming. Now, the Trident Rod is the best overall for high stats and unique ability, and that's what most people can agree on. Most people would say that it's the best overall rod. In my opinion, I believe the Depths Rod is still better, and that is the next rod, and this one costs $750,000. Now, the Depths Rod has an passive ability, so on your fourth catch, you will catch an extra fish from that ghost behind you. So it's kind of a nice passive. It helps you catch a little bit extra fish. And then the No Life Rod. Now, this rod requires level 500, and this one's really, really powerful because you don't have that many shake buttons that you have to. So this is a pretty good rod. I don't know the exact stats. I will have them on screen, but they're pretty good overall, and I would compare it close to the Depths Rod, in my opinion. And then here are my enchantment tips that I would recommend for the late game rods, specifically for the mid to late game rods. So for the steady rod, I would recommend Hasty. This one is really good for the steady rod, really basic. Helps you catch them faster, that we can level up faster. And again, that's the mid-game rod, the steady rod. And then the Trident Rod, I would recommend Hasty as well, just so you can get your rapid catches. And that's just the general enchant that everyone recommends for that rod. Now, if you're going for the Aurora Rod, I would go ahead with Resilience, the enchant Resilience, because it just kind of makes the rod easier to use, in my opinion. And then for the King's Rod, I would recommend Sea King, because this is going to increase the fish size by even more. So you have that 10% from the rod itself, then you have the actual enchant increasing the size rod of the fish. Now, for the Depths Rod, this one's really up to you. Hasty's pretty good. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next